My account should have at least $50,000 in it, though. Over the past 6 months, substantial amounts of money have been withdrawn several times, thus suspecting unauthorized withdrawals. I reported my concerns at the bank and decided to set up a trap to lure out the perpetrator after consulting with them. I had my suspicions about my husband and sister-in-law, though. The result was astonishing. It has been 2 years since I married my husband, but day by day, my desire to divorce him grows. The compatibility with my husband's family is the worst. His family consists of his father, who is a salaried worker, his mother, who works part-time, and his sister and her husband, who live with their 3 children just a 5-minute walk away. By the way, my brother-in-law is currently stationed abroad alone. On the other hand, my husband and I both work full-time and have no children yet, living in an apartment about an hour's drive from his parents' home. Going back to the time of the family introduction, I thought we could get along well, seeing the family joke around, putting me up on a pedestal while playfully belittling their son. So, we registered our marriage. The wedding satisfied our guests, and afterward, we went on a honeymoon to Taiwan. There, we met an elderly American man at breakfast, who said he had lost the hotel's accommodation benefit coupon, which he intended to use for souvenirs. I haven't used mine yet and have 2, so why don't I give you one? I offered, but for some reason, the man's tone became formal, and he attempted to leave. Suddenly, I noticed my husband glaring at the man with a stern face. The elderly man left the restaurant. My husband yelled, "Why would you easily give something to such a beggar? It's not like he begged for it, and we weren't going to use it anyway. If he's in trouble, we should help," I said, only to be mocked by my husband with a cynical laugh, saying, "Ah, there goes the superhero." I was stunned by his comment and had no such intention. I rushed to put the coupon in an envelope to give it to the elderly man before he checked out. But my husband wrote "charity" on it in big letters. I couldn't help but murmur, "That's so petty, it's embarrassing." Although I managed to give the coupon to the front desk successfully, my husband and I were in a cold war ever since. I didn't want a divorce right after returning from JFK, but I was anxious about our future on the flight back. Sure enough, problems began with our married life, instigated by my sister-in-law. At the time of our marriage, she was 3 months away from giving birth to twins. For some reason, she asked my husband if she could get my contact information because she had something to consult about. I couldn't imagine what she wanted to discuss, so I deferred my answer. However, during that time, my husband told me, "I gave her your contact info." The next day, my sister-in-law said, "We're family now, so I'm counting on you for various things. It's tough raising 3 children nowadays, you understand, right? Being a stay-at-home wife all day, you'll definitely be a great help." And then she added, "For now, please keep yourself available for about 1.5 years. Are you asking me to help with childcare? I'm busy with remote work, so I don't have time for that," I replied. She just laughed and said, "That's just a bit more than a side job," completely ignoring me. When I told my husband, he agreed with his sister, saying, "She's right. You're part of the family now. There's no need to formally ask for help within the family." I retorted, "If you're short on hands, why not ask your mother or your sister's husband's family?" But he said, "It's too late for that. You're in charge of taking the older kids to and from school while my sister is in the hospital. However, it takes an hour's drive one way from our home to my sister-in-law's or the in-laws, commuting back and forth every day according to the kids' school schedule would waste half a day. Even if my sister-in-law and in-laws don't understand remote work, I can't comprehend why my husband allows her to run rampant." Moreover, he smirked and said, "You're the superhero, so you'll naturally help my troubled sister, right? I'm fed up with his persistence. I went to my in-laws the next day and refused everything regarding my sister-in-law. The following day, she asked me to do the nephew's pickup and drop off. But I firmly declined, saying, I have work and the distance is too far, so I can't take it on. However, my in-laws became angry, saying, can't you have some compassion? And didn't your parents teach you anything? This is disgraceful. To my surprise, they said, a wife is supposed to serve her husband, his parents, and his sister, and live in service to the ancestors. Truth is stranger than fiction. Seeing my reaction, my in-laws seemed to finally realize my mistake and said, as long as you understand, make sure you fulfill your duties as a wife. The insistence from my husband's family, including my husband himself, continued for a year and a half. However, doing so would take more than 4 hours in total for a round trip, greatly affecting my work. When I told my husband, he, not wanting to lose the disposable income, convinced his family to accept my condition of only helping out for the first month after the birth. After a month passed, my sister-in-law began bringing her 3 children to our house every weekend. Water was left running, air conditioning was on in all rooms. The fridge was emptied. Tissues were used excessively, and toilet paper was always down to the roll. My jewelry was gone. Furthermore, my sister-in-law would take my car without asking and go out by herself. She should have at least informed me if she wanted to borrow it. I told her my car insurance doesn't cover accidents caused by anyone other than myself. But she wouldn't listen. Worse yet, my car already had scratches and dents after she used it. Concerned about a potential accident, I messaged my sister-in-law's husband, who had been previously exchanged, but only received scene notifications without any response. Then, my husband and sister-in-law started leaving their kids with me to go out and play. Moreover, their outings escalated. During this time, I had to deal with household chores accumulated over the weekdays, while taking care of 3 unfamiliar children. One weekend, my sister-in-law left her children with me and went out with my husband. However, on Monday morning, as my husband went to work and she finally returned, I went to the bank and saw my balance had dropped to 1 digit. There should have been $50,000 in this account. Looking closely, substantial amounts of money had been withdrawn several times over the past 6 months. Thus, suspecting unauthorized withdrawals, I reported my concerns at the bank and decided to set up a trap to lure out the perpetrator. The following weekend, as usual, my sister-in-law forced childcare upon me and left with my husband. Moreover, that day, my in-laws went on a one-night trip. You should take this as a learning opportunity for future childcare. Right, you're lucky to learn this for free. They said such things. The afternoon after the in-laws went on the trip, I received multiple calls. Ignoring them, I soon received messages and other social media platforms. Reluctantly answering the phone, I was met with a loud voice complaining, I can't withdraw money, what's going on? I couldn't help but feel victorious. When I asked what she meant, she shouted, I mean, I can't withdraw money from your bank account. We can't even pay for our lodging. I calmly asked, what do you mean by my bank account? Why are you trying to withdraw my money? My sister-in-law just cursed in response. Then, my husband intervened, saying, because we were a bit short this month. We didn't have enough credit limit for this trip and decided to pay in cash. But now we can't withdraw the money and are in trouble. I asked coldly, whose bank account is it? It's mine, right? Why would you think you can use it without asking? The line went silent. The next moment, my husband said, that doesn't matter now. If we can't pay, we won't be able to check out or even afford the train fare home. Behind him, the in-laws chimed in, let's talk about this when we get back. And just transfer some money to your son's account now. That was an option, wasn't it? I was astonished by this family's audacity. My husband cheerfully said, "You heard them. Transfer about $2,000 to my account now." I replied, "I can't do that. I have to go to the police." Silence fell on the other side of the phone again. After a long silence, "Police? Why? It's normal to file a report if someone is withdrawing money from your account without permission." I laughed, and my sister-in-law exclaimed in disbelief. "What? You're our daughter-in-law. Whatever belongs to the daughter-in-law is for the family's use. You don't even understand that?" I responded, "I don't understand such a nonsensical argument." Then, my father-in-law yelled, "Family members can't commit theft against each other. Are you referring to the exemption for familial theft? Suggesting that theft among family members can't be prosecuted?" I asked, and when he replied affirmatively, I quickly countered. "My sister-in-law and I are not cohabiting relatives, so that exemption doesn't apply." My father-in-law was speechless. When my husband asked if I intended to sue his sister, I informed him that, as a victim, I would certainly file a lawsuit. And I would also consult about the theft of my jewelry and other items taken by my sister-in-law as theft. My sister-in-law interrupted, asking if there was any evidence. But I had already identified her flea market app account, where records of her selling items stolen from me remained, including some with photos of the warranty cards, making it clear they were mine. She started crying when I informed her of this. Then, when my husband became angry and told me to apologize to his sister for making her cry, I responded, "I'm a superhero, so I cannot overlook wrongdoing." I also informed him that I was preparing for a divorce, and that there would be a proper settlement for alimony and division of property. He mocked me, saying he wanted nothing to do with a hypocrite like me and that he wouldn't pay any alimony. However, I had records and witnesses of how my marriage had been made untenable by my husband and his family. When I mentioned exposing everything in court, my husband yelled, "Witnesses? What are you talking about?" A person in the passenger seat, connected to the car's speakerphone, said, "It's me. I've been observing and listening to all of your misdeeds as a member of the family. When I realized money was being withdrawn from my account without my knowledge, the bank informed me that if the transaction history wasn't recorded in the passbook, it's likely that someone with access to the cash card and PIN, usually a family member, was responsible. So, I devised a plan by deliberately leaving a bank statement showing a transfer of about $3,000 to the frequently used account in a conspicuous place in the house, while changing the PIN. This was intended to lock the cash card after 3 failed attempts by my sister-in-law, using the old PIN, effectively setting a trap to ruin the whole family. Additionally, I left a brochure of an inn, mentioning how it only accepts cash payments and how unique that is these days, within earshot of my sister-in-law. Seeing her and my husband smirk about it, I was inwardly pleased. I sent a lengthy message and photos to my sister-in-law's husband, exposing how she dumped her kids on me, the unsanitary conditions at her house when I wasn't caring for the children, and how the in-laws condoned it without reprimanding her. He replied quickly, saying he had taken leave from his company citing a family emergency. He had harbored various grievances and suspicions towards his wife's treatment of their children but was silenced by her threats of divorce without custody. My sister-in-law's husband and I cooperated, each hiring lawyers. I sought reimbursement for the embezzled money, compensation for my stolen items, alimony, and property division, while he pursued a divorce and custody of the children. As my sister-in-law's husband calmly explained the situation, my sister-in-law was shrieking on the other end of the phone, and my husband said, "Do you think you can get away with this for free?" I snorted and told them, "I did a little investigation on you guys and found out something interesting. You were both dumping the kids on me while you were actually sinking your time into nightclubs and bars. I added, I thought it was bad enough that a brother and sister, both with families, would leave their children with someone else to party all night. But to think you both were even worse than I imagined. I informed my husband that my belongings had already been moved out of the apartment. And since the apartment is treated as company housing by my employer, a cleaning crew would be coming in next week, so he needed to leave soon. Then, I passed the conversation back to my sister-in-law's husband. My sister-in-law's husband informed her that he would be taking the children to his parents' house and she would not be allowed to see them. He also mentioned that he would be selling the house, which was in his name, and she needed to move out immediately. We blocked all communication with them. Despite my sister-in-law and husband wanting to reconcile to avoid divorce, they couldn't check out of their lodging without paying the bill. Eventually, the in-laws were reported to the police for suspected dine and dash and lodging without payment. They were scolded by the police, promised to pay upon returning home, and made their way back using regular trains. As promised, I left only the divorce papers, and the in-laws found their homes empty. Thanks to competent lawyers, I received a lump sum for alimony. And both my sister-in-law's husband and I finalized our divorces. He successfully gained custody of the children. The former in-laws, at the behest of my ex-husband and ex-sister-in-law, had to sell their home to cover the alimony and embezzled money, becoming guarantors for the new debts incurred by the ex-sister-in-law and ex-husband. Furthermore, their debts at the nightclubs and bars became so substantial that they had to work tirelessly day and night to repay them. As for me, I'm taking a break from marriage for a while. I plan to focus on taking care of myself, making up for the time wasted with my ex-husband.